Hi, I'm JP Perdomo, Instructional Designer for Henny Corporation here in Eaton, Ohio. And today I am excited to present you a procedure that is going to help you save your customers upwards of $500 while making you look like a hero. Interested in learning more? I bet you are. The procedure is performed in an Evolution Elite open fryer. However, it also applies to LOV and Velocity fryers. Okay, so without much further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in it. So you get a call from a customer stating that the fryer is showing the check jib message a lot more often than usual. And that is prompting the team members to either have to add more fresh oil to the jib container or to pump the oil back to the fry vat because the oil levels keep getting lower. So at this point, it looks like the problem is coming from a leak in the drain valve. Usually, this is caused by leaving a brush stuck in the drain valve and yanking it out, which causes the valve to fall out of alignment. So at this point, what we need to do is we need to confirm that that is indeed the situation. And then if it is, then we would have to remove the valve, align it, and place it back on the fryer. And that's what we're gonna cover in this video. So let's start by confirming that the issue is the leak in the first place. To do that, we're gonna start by using the filter menu to drain the oil and have a visual confirmation of the issue. So for that, I'm gonna change to my control camera. So for that, what we do is we press and hold any of the filter buttons until we get to the filter menu. Once there, we're gonna use the P button to scroll to drain to pan. Now, right now what we do is we press the number 1 button and we press it again and hold it to drain the oil. One of the things that I want to make sure of is that before I drain the oil, I confirm that there is no oil in the drain pan. Remember, if there is oil in the drain pan and you drop all the oil from this fry vat, most likely you'll have a mess to clean up afterwards. So make sure that the drain pan is empty. So now what I do is I press and hold the number 1 button. The drain valve opens and then the oil starts to drain into the drain pan. Once the oil has drained entirely, I can confirm visually that the drain valve is opening all the way, and now I need to close it to make sure that it also closes all the way to ensure that the problem is something else. So I let go of the button. Now the drain valve has closed, and at this point what I do is I take a peek into the fry vat and make sure that the drain valve is closing all the way. If it is not, then we proceed to remove it from the fryer. So now let's move on to that part of the process, which might sound complicated, but is actually really easy. I'm going to show you how to do it in just very few steps. Okay, so as you can see, the procedure is very simple and very easy. Now, just one thing to remember is that if the fryer has been in use for a while, then it might take a little more elbow grease to remove that drain valve. However, the steps are the same. So now that we have the drain valve out of the fryer, we need to confirm that the issue is whether when the drain valve opens or the drain valve closes. So for that, what we want to do is we want to take the drain valve connector and plug it back into the fryer. So that way we can utilize tech mode to manipulate the drain valve and determine where the issue lies. Okay, so to do that, we're gonna go back to our control and we're gonna exit the filter menu by pressing the number 2 button twice. Now that we have left the filter menu, we are ready to go into the tech mode. For that, what we do is we press and hold the P button until we see level 2 programming. Once there, we use the P button and press it and release it until we see tech mode. Once there, we enter the code 11221122. Next, we press the info button to scroll back to the option for pumps and valves. Once there, we press the filter button or the down arrow to go into the menu. Now we see the letters D and C, which stand for drain closed, and then the numbers 6 and 7 lit up, which indicates that I can control the drain valve by pressing and releasing number 6 button. So at this point, I have taken the valve out of the fryer and connected it to the fryer, so that way I can feed voltage to it and open it and closing it on demand. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to press and release the number 6 button and just show you how the valve operates. So I'm gonna press it. So now we can see that the valve opens all the way without any trouble. So we know that the issue is not on the opening, but on the closing. So now let's go ahead and close it. I'm gonna jump back to my control. I'm gonna press number 6 and then jump back to the drain valve. Wow, we can see now that the valve is not closing all the way. Now, for this example, I have exaggerated the gap so you can clearly see it on camera. But in real life, most likely this gap will be much, much smaller. Now, since I am using my finger to point at the valve itself, that reminds me to give you a safety message, and that is not to put your finger in the valve at any point during this procedure, because the valve won't know that there is something stuck in it and will close and potentially harm your finger, okay? So keep that in mind. So now that we have determined that the issue is with the closing, now we need to proceed to the calibration of the valve. I have taken the cap off already, which is the one that you're gonna find once you remove the valve from the fryer. So I have already removed it, and you can see 2 cams that control the opening and closing of the valve. The upper cam controls the closing, the lower cam controls the opening. Since we know that the problem is not with opening, then we don't have to work with the bottom one, but the upper one. Now, this is the logic behind it. If I rotate this cam clockwise, it will make the valve close less. If I rotate it counterclockwise, then it will make the valve close more, which is exactly what we want. So I need to rotate this cam counterclockwise to fix the problem. So what I do is I use a 3/32 Allen wrench, which is the same wrench that you're gonna use to remove the screws from the cover. So once you have the wrench with you, simply loosen up the hex nut on the upper cam until you can rotate it with your fingers. Now, there is not an exact science as to how much you have to rotate the cam, but just kind of take a guess by going by the size of the gap. So this one seems to be a little significant. So I'm just going to turn it just a little bit like here, right there, and see where that takes us. So now what I do is I tighten the hex nut and go back to tech mode to my drained valve option, I'm gonna press number 6 and then jump to the drain valve camera. It's still opening without any troubles. Now I'm gonna close it and go back to the camera. And I can see that it has closed all the way. I don't see any gaps. I don't see any, so it looks like the problem has been solved. So at this point, the only thing to do is to place the cap back on and install the drain valve back on the fryer. And for that, I'm gonna show you how to do that. Great. As you can see, it is a very easy procedure to complete by using just a couple of tools in about 30 to 45 minutes of your time. Now, in some instances, you may have to separate the motor from the drain valve in order to remove the drain valve from the fryer. And this is because of restrictions with space. So if that is the case, let me show you how you can do that. If you need to separate the valve from the motor because you cannot take the whole thing at once because of space restrictions, then it is a very easy procedure to complete. The only thing that you have to do at this point is to loosen up these two hex screws by using the same 3/32 Allen wrench to the point that you can basically take both components apart. Now, sometimes it gets a little stuck, so what you may have to do is use a flathead screwdriver, place it in between the two screws on this gap, and then twist it to separate them or to get the separation started, and then with your hands, you can take them apart. As you can see, the shaft is square, and the position of the shaft has to match the position of the nut inside the motor. So when you place them back together, simply snap them into place and then use the Allen wrench to tighten the nuts again to secure the valve to the motor. Now, this very same procedure applies also to when you need to replace just the drain valve because it has been damaged. The decision to replace the drain valve is made after calibrating the drain valve and placing it back on the fryer and still experiencing leakage. This means that the drain valve has been compromised and needs to be replaced. To exit tech mode, simply press and hold the P button, and that's it. Okay, so let's wrap up this video by going over 5 points that summarize this presentation. The first one is that the misalignment of the drain valve happens pretty much because of poor filtration practices. The second one is that you can save your customers upwards of $500 by realigning the drain valve rather than replacing it. The third one is that this process requires only a handful of tools and about 30 to 45 minutes of your time. The fourth one is to remember how the cams work. The upper cam controls the closing, the lower cam controls the opening. If you rotate the cams clockwise, it makes the drain valve close less. If you rotate it counterclockwise, it makes the drain valve close more. And then the last one is, if you have any questions regarding this procedure or the parts used in it, then feel free to contact our technical support department at tservices@hennypenny.com. For other helpful videos, make sure to check our YouTube channel, Henny Penny Help and Henny Penny Service. See you in the next one.